Okay, hello, Maria Victoria. Nice to have you here. Maria Victoria Cabrera Balleza is the winner of this award that we celebrated today, and she's the founder and chief executive officer in the global network of women Peacebuilders. She's active in a broad range of work on women, peace and security in synergy with the youth peace and security agenda. So I will ask some questions to you. I would like to ask you to introduce yourself and tell me about your organization and your principal activities in the organization.
I'm Mavi Cabrera Balleza, the founder and chief executive officer of the Global Network of Women Peacebuilders. We are a coalition of more than 100 organizations from around the world, women's groups and other civil society organizations working to implement the Women Peace and Security Resolutions in synergy with the Youth Peace and Security Resolutions adopted by the United Nations Security Council. And one of the principal activities that we have in the organization is the localization of these Women Peace and Security Resolutions, again, in synergy with Youth Peace and Security Resolutions, wherein we bring together local authorities like governors and mayors, councilors, indigenous leaders, of course, local women's rights groups and youth groups, including teachers, university professors, and non-formal educators, local police and military, to work together in implementing the Women, Peace and Security Resolutions, particularly in a situation when there is a national action plan on women, peace and security, and therefore they decide to develop a local action plan that reflects the realities that they confront in their local communities.
Okay, thank you. In what ways has your organization work positively impacted women and their communities, you think, in conflict areas?
The impact of localization varies from one country to another, and sometimes from one local community to another. Like, for instance, let me start with where I come from originally, the Philippines. Mm-hmm. In an indigenous community in northern Philippines called Cordillera, the Cordillera Mountains, they have a peace-building mechanism which also serves as a traditional court. It's called Bodong, B-O-D-O-N-G, wherein they have all male 24 members of the council or the court. And for centuries, that was the norm, all men, no women. And after the series of localization workshops we've conducted there for over 2 years, they invited 5 women to the Bodong Council. And when we came back to the community and asked how the Bodong was functioning, and they said, oh, it's wonderful to have the women members of the Bodong because more community people are coming to the Bodong to report various problems, including crimes, including sexual and gender-based violence, because the women were much more confident to report about the crimes committed against them because they are talking to women. They feel more understanding of the issues that they confront, and they feel more compassion. And so that increased reporting, which is important in ending impunity towards these crimes. So that's just one of the many impacts. But the related impact is in Uganda, where localization led to establishment of gender desk in police stations. And similar to the case of this tribal community in the Philippines, because the gender desks were staffed by women police officers, so more women are reporting about the crimes committed against them. And keeping in mind that the average in terms of reporting of such crimes is only 20%. When they go unreported, it is very likely that crimes will continue to happen because there's no consequences for committing those crimes. But when you begin to report, that's a deterrent in terms of other possible perpetrators committing the same crimes.
Sure. And according to this, so in your opinion, could the WPS agenda be improved in better support women's involvement in peace process, and how in this case?
Yes. Again, I'll respond to your question by using an example. So in Colombia, we have been working there with women peacebuilders and civil society, and also in cooperation with government agencies to ensure that women participate in the peace negotiation with the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, or the FARC. And because of the activism and leadership of Colombian women, they were able to influence the peace negotiation, to have more than 100 provisions of the peace agreement focusing on women's rights, women's empowerment, gender equality integrated into the peace agreement. So now, after the peace agreement was approved in 2016, the next big chunk of work is in the implementation of the peace agreement. Because the problem with most peace agreements is that even though they are strong, they could potentially mean transformative, positive changes in the lives of women and girls, or in the lives of local populations affected by conflict. The problem is in the implementation. You can have a fantastic peace agreement on paper, but if there's no close monitoring, especially done by civil society, you can easily conclude that the peace agreement will just be, a document. So through our localization program, we were able to enhance the capacity of local women in departments. They call them departments, which are like states or districts, to monitor how the peace agreement is implemented and demand that the government and the partners like United Nations ensure that they are implemented. So they monitor that, and one of the steps that they took was called the establishment of gender patrol, so that same with the other countries that I mentioned, the Philippines and Uganda, the crimes are reported and prosecuted and sentenced. So to encourage, the same crimes from being committed again, but also supporting local women in their economic empowerment project and participation in elections and other processes that would ensure their voices are heard.
Empowerment, yes. What does winning this prize mean for your organization, and how it can impact your work?
Winning the Francesca Tardioli Award for Best Practice and Implementation of 1325 means a lot to us because it's a recognition of this importance of this work. It's a recognition of the centrality of local women's voices in implementing the Women, Peace and Security agenda. And it will always serve as an inspiration to continue this work. And to our broader audience, especially the policymakers in government, it's also drawing attention. Look, the Sapienza University and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Italy have noticed and paid attention of how the Global Network of Women Peacebuilders initiatives are ensuring the effective implementation of the Women, Peace and Security agenda. Let's let's explore partnership with them. Yeah. Let's look into supporting their initiatives, because work on women, peace, and security it's not something you do for a 2-year project or even a 5-year project. It has to be sustained to be successful, because we are challenging the traditional way of policy making and policy implementation to make them more participatory and more inclusive, and for local communities to feel that they are invested in it, that they co-own it, and therefore they will participate in implementation. Because other than that, we will just continue having these piles and piles and piles of policies that are gathering dust on the shelves of bureaucracy and are not making positive, transformative change in the lives of women and girls, in the lives of the broader population affected by crisis and conflict. So this award means a lot to us.
We are really grateful. And so about what you say, what advice do you have for individuals or organizations looking to contribute to the goals of Women, Peace and Security agenda?
What my advice is that let's define our shared vision for peace, for sustainable development, and for effective humanitarian response. Being an activist for a long time, I had a phase in my life where all I could think of when engaging with government, especially, and intergovernmental institutions like the United Nations or the European Union or the African Union or the ASEAN for Association of Southeast Asian Nations, is that these institutions deserve nothing but criticism. But that has changed, because I've realized that we actually share common vision of inclusive and sustainable peace and development for all. We just happen to have different ways of doing things, or we have different vehicles that we take, but the journey is the same. So let's start on our common goals, and from there work on a compromise. So we work with government, but we don't give up our critical thinking. We stay critical, but constructively critical, and in a sustained manner. Like we talk to you now, we'll continue talking, because this is not easy to achieve. You know, there are so many factors contributing to insecurity, contributing to crisis that we did not have before, like digital technologies, which have positive as well as negative impact on the lives of women and girls, on the lives of everyone. Climate change is impacting us differently than they did before. Now, climate change is very related to conflict. They aggravate conflict. They create new tensions. They are risk multipliers. And then, of course, military spending. The increasing military spending is also a concern for many of us. But I know some offices of the United Nations, which are also, of course, made up of member states, are also concerned about the imbalance between military spending and the need to ensure human security. And we had COVID.
This is something correlated with the human security concept.
Exactly.
No?
COVID-19 pandemic was a teaching moment because it highlighted several elements of human security that we need to prioritize. So, let's look at our shared goals and start defining terms of working together as our starting point. So that's what I would suggest to my fellow civil society actors and everyone else who care about this agenda.
Yeah. So thank you, Mavic, and congratulations.
Thank you so much, Mariangela.
And your organization. It was a pleasure having you here.
Likewise, I cannot be more grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.